Filmed live in Canada, it's Jim's Record Party. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jim's Record Party. I'm your host, James. So nice of you to be with us today as we'll be looking at 5 appearances by John McLaughlin, the great English jazz guitarist, in a non-MAHAVISHNU orchestra setting. Yes, such a thing does exist, and we'll have 5 examples here today, starting off with Love, Devotion, Surrender, in which he is billed as MAHAVISHNU John McLaughlin, but this is basically a duo album with his friend Carlos Santana. They both, at the time, being disciples of the guru Sri Chinmoy, they got together and called on Billy Cobham, great drummer, of course, from MAHAVISHNU Orchestra. This album follows hard on the heels of the original orchestra, as well as Larry Young, the great jazz organist. And it's not a coincidence, I do not believe, that Larry Young also appears on John McLaughlin's album Devotion. And I don't think that's an accident that now he appears on the Carlos Santana MAHAVISHNU John McLaughlin album Love, Devotion, Surrender. I was very lucky to see this band in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens when they toured. Very intense electric guitars, completely instrumental, of course. Contemplative, meditative, yes, but in a fusion, electric guitars are turned up setting. Very nice. Leading off here today, it's a non-MAHAVISHNU Orchestra album with John McLaughlin and his friend Carlos Santana, Love, Devotion, Surrender. Our second album, by the great Czech bass player Miroslav Vitous, one of the founding members of Weather Report, the original bass player in the great fusion band Weather Report with Joe Zawinul and Wayne Shorter. Here in his appearance as a band leader, as his eponymous release, Miroslav Vitous, Mountain in the Clouds. This is a reissue of an album that was recorded in 1969, I believe. And this was a reissue from 72, originally called Infinite Spaces or Infinite Search, I believe, with a very bad cover. This is a very nice cover, very characteristic of the music within. One of the first fusion albums I was exposed to my delight. Is a fantastic album. Here we find not only Miroslav, but the great tenor player Joe Henderson, the great keyboard player Herbie Hancock. Jack DeJohnette is on drums. This is often a driving, again, a meditative, collective improvisation, highly improvised album. This setting, very beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. Search this out if you're interested in the beginnings of fusion music. This is a great example. Mountain in the Clouds, Miroslav Vitous, John McLaughlin, appearing on our next album in a non-MAHAVISHNU Orchestra setting, ladies and gentlemen. The great tenor sax player, the great soprano sax player, the great flautist Joe Farrell, here manning his own group, the Joe Farrell Quartet. This album also occasionally known as Follow Your Heart, due to the lead-off tune, Follow Your Heart, which is a John McLaughlin tune and the only cut on this album that McLaughlin appears on. So I was and am disappointed in that decision. What was up with that, people? I think we need an explanation. Another great band, Chick Corea on keyboards, Jack DeJohnette again on drums, Dave Holland, the great English bass player. Of course, we've spoken of him previously on Jim's Record Party. And the great guitarist himself, John McLaughlin, but only appearing on the single cut, his own song, his own tune called Follow Your Heart, leads off this album. Then John bows out, leaves it to the rest of the boys. It's a fantastic album, ladies and gentlemen, and one of many to follow on CTI. Creed Taylor is the producer of these jazz albums. Beautiful covers, Outback, Moon Germs, Penny Arcade, others to follow. Joe Farrell, originally a member, of course, of Chick Corea's original Return to Forever with Flora Purim and Airto. Now manning his own group here, the Joe Farrell Quartet with John McLaughlin. Our penultimate album today, yes, it's Larry Coryell Spaces, another pillar of fusion, pre-fusion, again recorded in 1969, released in 1970. A gentleman I had the great pleasure of shaking his hand and telling him how much I enjoyed his music when he appeared at the, I believe it was the first International Vancouver Jazz Festival held at Whistler. Larry Coryell appeared there. I told him offering his great fusion album was still on my turntable. Here with John McLaughlin, this is an acoustic session for the two guitar players, not necessarily for the accompanimists, Miroslav Vitchus, Billy Cobham, and Chick Corea. Coincidentally, three gentlemen we've just talked about form the rhythm section on this album. Terrific album, terrific guitar playing. John McLaughlin's name should be on the cover as a co-equal with Coryell on this album. A standout, a must-have of pre-fusion and fusion guitar playing. Two of the masters, Larry Coryell and John McLaughlin. Leads us to our final album, our final choice here on Jim's Record Party today. Remember our theme, John McLaughlin in a non-Mahavishnu setting, and it couldn't get much more non-Mahavishnu than this. Do you recognize it? One Man Dog by James Taylor. The enormous worldwide hit, Don't Let Me Be Lonely Tonight, came from this album. And remember that the band that supported James Taylor on this album and on others and on his tours was collectively known as The Section, I believe, with Lee Sklar, Craig Dorge on keyboards, Danny Kuchmar guitar, Russ Kunkel, I believe, on drums at this point. And they were a bit of a fusion instrumental group, recorded separately on their own sometimes when they were touring with James. But here we're talking about John McLaughlin, the master of fusion guitar, appearing on a James Taylor album. Yes, it's true, because they shared the same manager. And I guess to give John a bit of a leg up in North America, I believe, would be the reason he appears on this album on a song that he wrote called Someone, a very beautiful song. And had you not known that it was penned by McLaughlin, it would pass for a very nice James Taylor song, with a beautiful acoustic guitar solo in the center by Mr. McLaughlin. Beautiful song, sung by James Taylor, played and accompanied by the band and with a solo by McLaughlin. John McLaughlin appearing in a non-Mahavishnu setting. To wrap up here, another side on Jim's Record Party. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. It's been my pleasure to present these albums to you. My name is James. I'm your host as always. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and join us every week at the same time to enjoy more rare and exceptional albums. It's been so nice to have you with us today. We'll see you again next week.